Alright. So this video is going to be a bit different. I started YouTube about a year ago and then stopped for like 8 months because I didn't have time to edit it, and then I hired an editor, and now I have an editor who can help me pretty much part-time to get stuff out, and so that's why I've been more active, and it's been good. I want to make this sport into something more than just a hobby, so that's why I'm starting to invest in these different areas, like making videos, the podcast, Stupid Questions. Please check it out if you haven't. But the real reason that I'm here today is to share not just a race recap video, although I will get into that, but this is more of like a past 2.5 years recap in some ways of like why I've got into triathlon, how I found triathlon, and what's the reason what I'm doing. And when I first got into endurance sports, I started asking people questions like, what are you running from? For those people that were in the sport. Because there is something to be said about when your body is pushed to an extreme limit, it gets rid of all the BS, for lack of better words, really quick, because it gets down to the core of like, what are you actually feeling? What is survival instinct? What is just extra fluff that you add on top? And that's because this sport has a way of just bringing out who you really are. And that's what I want to talk about. So I need to go back a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, who have recently started following the channel, my name's Seth, obviously. And I am just turned 31 years old on the 9th of September, actually. So just a few days. It is now like the 12th or 13th. Can't remember. It's Tuesday. And when I was in college, I started this company called Sway. It was called Sway because it was a hammock company. We made insulated camping hammocks, and you know, Sway is an action, it's a movement. It's this company that I started, and it became very quickly a piece of who I was, because it was the first time that I created something where people really latched on and thought it was something cool. And that brought me a lot of confidence. It brought me a lot of security. It brought me a lot of warmth, just internally, and knowing that I can be something. For those who don't know, when I was 16, I lost my father to tragically to suicide, and that is a whole nother story in itself, but it's very centered in this story at the same time, because through Sway and the other things I've done in triathlon, my father has been a sense and a source of motivation for me in a bunch of different ways. Some of them are maybe not so healthy, such as a lot of successful men in this world typically have dad issues or don't have a father figure, so we're always trying to like prove ourselves, not only to ourselves but to some people that we care about, usually other men. The healthier ways are, it's motivated me to want to be a good man and eventual father. So there's a broad spectrum of motivations that have come from that story. And when I started Sway, it became one of those things where I really wanted to push it forward, because I wanted to not necessarily impress others, but I liked that people liked me for something that was more than just who I am, but something I created. Well, the pandemic happened, and I had been struggling with working on Sway for like 3 years in college, and then 2 years post-college. I guess 3 years post-college. It all came out to about 6.5 years of working on the thing. Even went to China, did manufacturing, but then COVID hit, and I had already been struggling with this idea, like, well, I don't know how to disconnect myself from Sway, because it became who I was known for everywhere. I mean, I wasn't famous, and I'm not famous, but I, in my own circles, became more popular, and this thing, let me make sure this is still recording. Yeah. This thing became my platform, and whenever I would be asked to speak somewhere or go to be a part of a pitch competition or speak in university or whatever, people that meet me on the street, they're like, oh yeah, you're the hammock guy. That bothered me because I didn't want to be painted into a corner, and I kind of been divorcing myself. I didn't know why exactly, but I knew I needed to quit, and move on from the sway thing, because it just wasn't who I was. The reason that I really went after it in the beginning is I told people, in college when I was doing this entrepreneurship class, because that's how sway started. I told the people about this idea, and people latched onto it, and I became addicted to the latching on, that people wanted to latch on to me or to this thing because they thought it was so cool. But then I realized, like, actually, this isn't who I am. I don't like camping that much. I'm not a super outdoorsy guy, although I do enjoy the outdoors, but I'm not what I'd call like a gram weenie who's shaving, my tent poles to make them lighter when I go on backpacking trips, and, making all my own stuff and alcohol stoves, all these things. It wasn't who I was, and so the pandemic hit, and this was like my opportunity to kind of drop it. Now, during the pandemic, I started, another company that lasted like 8 months selling PPE, and it was good. It was a quick pivot, and we made some money or whatever. But then I found triathlon, and I really found triathlon, I guess, back in college when I first met my wife. There was this little triathlon sprint, a part of the university, and that's Ashley and I, now my wife of 6.25 years. We started training for a triathlon together, and we competed in one together, and it goes back to my very fundamental roots of becoming a man and a husband. And then it came and went, and as the pandemic was ending, no, this was actually before the pandemic, I decided to enter that triathlon again with my two cousins, and I thought I would actually train for it, so I trained for it anyway. They destroyed me. Just wrecked me at that race, and I was so upset. And I decided on that day, which is right before the pandemic started, because this was in September. The pandemic was going to hit the fan in the U.S. around, December, January, whatever, and then going into the spring. And I decided I'm going to do a half Ironman, and I'm going to do well at it. So I made that decision, started training for it, created some tension between Ashley and I because I didn't even ask her if I could do it. I just decided I was going to do it. We didn't have the money for it. The gear, everything. It's an expensive sport. But anyway, I started training for it, and I became obsessed with it, and it became my new thing because my identity had been so wrapped up in sway. I decided I wanted to be known for something different, and I wanted to go after this triathlon thing because people had said I was athletic. I did gymnastics, and I knew from a young age, like, I liked running, but I never really did any of those things. We didn't have those extracurriculars a part of our school systems. We had soccer and whatnot, but never any running, biking, or swimming. A little mountain biking here and there, and I worked at a summer camp and did mountain biking, but nothing like super serious. So, but the reason, I don't want to digress, the reason I went after triathlon is because this was something that I had 100% unequivocal, unadulterated, 110% control of. And that's what I was obsessed with. I can control everything. I know exactly how I'm feeling about it. It's just such an input-output system. When you're biking, you put in power and you're going to get an output, and that's going to be your heart rate is rising, cause and effect, and you can throttle back and you can eat nutrition, da, 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 da. I just wanted to be known as a new person, and here I am. That was in 2020. This is 2023. Now I'm definitely more known, I think, for my old days still in sway, but more known for triathlon now. And that's how I've positioned myself. That's how I've taught what I talk about. It's what I post in my fitness journey, and I think it has in a lot of ways been just as inspiring to people as it was with the sway stuff and the other things that I did than with triathlon. Now, it's 2023. I started this triathlon journey really in 2020, late 2020, and this is gonna sound crazy, but when I first got my first like dinky tri bike in this little trainer that I set up in my apartment, I remember sitting on the bike. I wrote myself a training plan, and I was spinning for 45 minutes, and I remember thinking, not audibly, and I was afraid to tell people, I was like, I can become a professional at this. Like I can be one of the best. Now, that was a internal belief. Um, but just the way that when I had started Sway, I knew that the power of these internal beliefs and the things that you set your goals to and your mind to, um, that those things are powerful, and the brain is powerful, and our bodies are, I mean, magnificent. And I have been fortunate enough to be able to chase after that dream. I got my coaching license so I could start coaching and help pay for the sport. Um, I've had other job opportunities open up, so I've been able to kind of have the flexibility to work this type of a schedule and still make a difference in my work life. Um, and I'm getting closer every day to becoming a professional. Although I don't know if I'll ever be the best in the world. Probably not. Although I hesitate to even say like probably not. I mean, a lot can happen in 9 to 10 years. Crazier things have happened. But I've gone through this period of finding out who I really am. And this gets a little bit closer to the race recap. So leading up to last year, 2022, I did a 70.3, a half Ironman in Chattanooga. And my mindset was terrible. I wasn't running. I just, basically, before that race even started, I knew it was going to be a bad day. And it ended up being a really bad day because I was just in a terrible mood. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff. I went into Chattanooga Ironman, my first Ironman, with a completely different mindset, and I enjoyed the entire day. Even though it was hard, I nailed my nutrition, relatively speaking. I throttled back on the run, didn't have a whole lot of expectations, and it was a great day. Now, what's different now is like I signed up for this Ironman Wisconsin for 2023, because family was doing it, and I wanted to try my hand at it again and be a little bit faster. And I went into it with a bit more self-expectation because I know how fit I am. I know the training I put in. I mean, I've been training consistently now for the past 3-4 months, getting at the minimum 18, 19 hours a week, getting up to 20, 22 hours a week of training. That's including strength, biking, swimming, and running. Swimming a lot more. So I went into this one with a bit of expectation, and I felt so good going into this race. I really did. I felt so good up until the 2 days before. Body was coming around. I was super fit. I'm still fit. But now I'm going to get into something that, you know, well, before I go into that, this real raw stuff, there's no one thing that ruined this race. And for all intents and purposes, like, it wasn't actually a good race. I had a lot of really big positive things, which I'm going to write myself a note right here so I talk about those in a moment. But there was a lot of things that had happened in the days leading up to that. I made stupid, poor decisions, and that's what it can affect you. And once you affect especially your mental state, it can be a really tough day. So let's start with the positives. I've been really fit, training went well. My mindset actually was pretty good going into this, relatively speaking. The swim, I had a record swim for myself. I swam a 58-minute 2.4 mile swim, which is like a 121, 122, 1 minute and 21 to 22 seconds per 100 yards for an hour. It's pretty fast, for especially open water and how kind of choppy it was with all the people. So I was really proud of that. The bike, first half of the bike, really good. Second half of the bike, I kind of toned it back because I was like, well, I'm not feeling super great. I was getting dizzy. I messed up on my nutrition. I wasn't taking salt regularly like I should. I thought because it wasn't as hot, I was like, well, maybe I don't need to take as much salt. Stupid mistake. I took enough fluids on the bike, but here's the thing. Your body can't uptake water unless it's in a crystalline structure, and if you don't have the salt correct in your system, then you can't really take in the water in your gut, and the same with food. And when you're exercising like that, a lot of the blood is going away from your stomach and into your vital muscles that are propelling you forward. Anyway, I got behind on salt, and I was only taking like 1, maybe 2 pills an hour when I should have been taking 3 to 4. So dumb. I lost a lot of my salt early on, and so I got behind. I started feeling low. But the positives here. Swim went good. Bike, I'm pretty happy with. I still did better on this bike that I did at Ironman Chattanooga. But I got on the run, first 4 miles, I ate a little bit, and then it just started all going downhill from there because of bad decisions. So yeah, there's some good positives in there. Another big positive, I finished. I wanted to quit since mile 4 on the run, or 5 on the run the whole time. Mile 17, I started having IT band issues. It was really bad. I had to stop and stretch a ton, but my overall run time was like 9-minute miles for 26 miles. Super slow. I mean, it's relative, but for me, it was really slow. So, why did all these things happen? A number of reasons. First big stupid thing. I went into the last 2 nights of this race not sleeping well. 2 nights before, I slept about 8 hours, but my HRV was pretty low, and I took some melatonin, which actually helped me not sleep as good soundly. My room was kind of hot. But the night before the race, I was stressed. I let anxiety get to me. I couldn't sleep. I didn't even feel tired. And I took melatonin, didn't even seem to be working. And this is where it gets raw. Like, for those who may have heard kind of my own testimony on life and my journey, you'll know that when I went to the Philippines during my college years, that was a big shift for me because it got me away from a lot of addiction. Video games, pornography, masturbation, a lot of these things that were just, that I know and believe, and it's okay if you disagree with me, that those things are not conducive to a positive person, character, full of kindness and selflessness and all these things. So the night of, I ended up looking at inappropriate stuff on my phone, trying to seek some level of comfort, which obviously the wrong place to go. I even have friend groups that I like call on to whenever I feel like an urge or tempted to go after these things that I know I shouldn't. I should have called them even though it was late. So anyway, that got me into like a horrible mindset. And I ended up sleeping a whole maybe 2 hours the night before the race. So that already set me up for failure. I didn't refrigerate my nutrition like I should have, which some of this stuff needs to be refrigerated because it's like perishable and overnight. So it tasted kind of funny in the morning. So that may have been an issue. I got on the bike. Like I said, I didn't properly take in the salt. There's a lot of nutrition stuff, and I won't bore you all that, but I'll kind of go through the day. So the swim, I got into the water. It was super controlled. I actually felt really good. I swam with a good group. We took turns taking the lead. Got onto the bike. First half of the bike felt pretty good, felt in control, but I started to get messed up on my salt. The pavement was so rough on so many places where you're like, you know, when you guys are on the interstate and you're hitting all those divots and it's like, gunka. It was like that for literally probably 70, 80 miles of that ride. So it's just banging all of your joints. All that stuff makes sure it's still recording. Yeah. Banging all of your joints. And it was tough. It started to get hot. It was deceptively hot. It was high 70s with low humidity, so it was evaporating pretty quick off of your skin, and then there's just salt left behind, and I should have been taking more salt. I mean, that's probably my biggest issue there. I took in maybe almost 6.5 bottles of water, so over 6 times 24 is, that's like 135 or 6 or 7, nearly 140 ounces, which is pretty decent, but because I didn't take in salt and the right nutrition, I kind of got behind. Then I got on the run, I started taking stuff, and then I just kind of gave up. And I kept thinking in my mind, Seth, you don't deserve anything better than this because of what you did last night. And I believe that it puts strain on a marriage and all this stuff. And it's just so funny because the literally 2 days before the race, when I was doing my shakeout, I felt like I was in such a good place. I did my shakeout. I felt amazing. And I actually started to tear up a little bit about imagining myself potentially coming into a top 10 or even winning that race. Because I think that I had it in me to win that race. But because of decisions I made, like I got this block where I was just like starting to give up. And once your brain starts to give up, it's like, adios. There goes your physical will to do it. Anyway, so then I finished the bike. I get on the run. First 4 miles or so was like a 7:40 pace, which I was holding back a little bit, and I felt pretty decent. I mean, considering that I just biked under 12 miles, but it just started to go downhill from there because I started cramping in my chest, and I felt my glutes trying to cramp some, and my hand was cramping from holding my bottle. I actually threw it at someone. I was like, hey, do you want a free bottle? You can go sell it on eBay. I just gave it to him, which in hindsight was kind of stupid. But anyway, my shoulder literally felt like I was going to come out of socket because I think there's so much stress from the swimming. I have a bad shoulder for whatever reason, and then from being down here for so long, for 5 hours, yeah, it was just tough. But anyway, I got on the run, and it's just a mental battle every single quarter mile. I wanted to quit the whole time. I was like, well, I'll do one lap, and we'll see how I feel. I'm so happy I finished, because as I was rounding on the last half mile, it literally felt so hard. I was almost walking. I started crying because I realized, like, I did this to myself. And like I said, these endurance sports have a way of cutting out all the crap really quick and letting you know what you're made of. And physically, I pushed through and I won the day. I'm proud of that. Mentally, no, not very proud of myself. Although I did battle, I just was like letting myself go to these dark places, and I had a hard time not forgiving myself, or had a hard time forgiving myself when I should have forgiven myself a little earlier, and just because I believe that God does forgive us when we ask it. And the thing that I had done that night, like with those addictions, that stuff plays a role, but I believe that there's this Bible verse that says that the righteous man falls 7 times and gets back up, and the unrighteous man basically falls down and I forget what the exact wording is. I paraphrased and I butchered it, but if you fall down and don't get back up and try, like, you're evil. If you do try again and seek restoration and forgiveness, like that's truly what matters. And so anyway, I came across the finish line. It actually ended up being a sprint finish, which it was silly to do. Well, no, it wasn't a silly thing, because I think I won 5th place in my age group by like 6 seconds. So that probably won me that, because some guy was trying to pass me at the very end, and I out-sprinted him, but he was still like 7 minutes faster overall on the whole run. So anyway, it was a solid day, but I got to the line. I was just defeated. I called Ashley on the phone. I just started crying. I told her about the night before, and I didn't sleep well, and I had looked up porn, and yeah, and it all really stinks, because like a week ago I had been like clean for almost 100 days, and I want to get back to that, and like to be clean for 100, 300, and then done forever, just because that stuff is so toxic. It's not real. It's just like, it's like Twinkies. It's like, okay, yeah, you can get something from that, like, for maybe 5 minutes, and then like it's just gonna hurt you afterwards. So yeah, I talked to her. I cried. I went to the med tent actually after trying to eat like a half a sandwich. I was so nauseous. They wouldn't give me any Zofran or anything. I was asking for anti-nausea, and they're like, no. They offered me an IV, which I didn't take because I was afraid that I'd vagal out or something, because I do that typically. Anyway, I went into the med tent, laid there for a while, went to the bathroom, vomited everywhere, made it back to the room eventually with the family, and I got some fluids in finally, started to feel better, but before then I tried eating a little bit, vomited more. And as I remember actually sitting in the bathtub after I got back, just kind of letting the water roll over my head, and I was just slumped over and just feeling horrible, and so questioning everything that I had decided to do, questioning Ironman, questioning everything, and I was like, I'm never doing an Ironman again. But anyway, I finished. I'm gonna overcome these addictions. Triathlon is more than just control now. It's like something I want to be a lifestyle. It's something that I want to keep forever in some regard, because I'm starting this podcast and I'm meeting these very inspiring people who have amazing life stories. And I want to continue to do that. And I do want to eventually win one of these races and get my professional card. Will I be the best in the world? Probably not. Do I have the ability to be very good? Yes. Is there a lot that I have left to learn? Yes. Do I need to be obsessed with the control aspect of always trying to control everything? Not really. To keep these things healthy, you got to put your family first. And for a couple years there, I wasn't putting Ashley first or my family, but now I'm more putting, like, Ashley, putting her first and focusing on our marriage more. And I have her support in what I'm doing. And, I am able to provide for her financially. And there's a lot of things that triathlon has taught me about mental grit and spiritual grit and physical grit, that I still have yet to learn, or to build on, because I've learned some things. But my biggest takeaway from this race is you can finish even when you don't want to, don't think you can. After mile 17, through to mile 26 of the run, I had to stop literally every quarter mile to stretch my IT band because I knew I would injure it if I didn't. And that took my pace from like a 740 average down to a 906 by the time I finished. Yeah, just really sad. But I am happy that I finished and pushed through. And my wife, as I was crying to her on the phone at the finish line, she forgave me. She loved me dearly. She loves me dearly. She's been such a support through all of this. I don't know what I'm going to do the next year yet. I may race once more. I'm not sure. But I'm very happy for this experience. And I don't know what it is about 5th place, but I have gotten 5th place at more races than I can even care to count. I think of like my 7 Ironman, half Ironmans. I've probably gotten 5th like in my age group. I'll have to go look, but it's been probably 5 times. And then at Chattanooga, full 5th. This Wisconsin, 5th. Yeah, so crazy. But anyway, that's a little bit of my unpacking. This has been therapeutic for me because I just wanted to be open about who I am and what I struggle with, and not have to worry about the judgment. Statistically, so many people struggle with the things that I struggle with. So, but I want to be done with it forever. And I wanted to put that on camera. And yeah, I love my family. I love my friends. I really do care and thank and appreciate all of you who have been following my journey, and I'm going to continue to do it and put it out there. I know this is a bit long, didn't mean for it to go this long, but yeah, just super excited to have this opportunity to share with you guys and to have the financial ability to share it with you with all the editing and stuff that, because this stuff does cost money to put out. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and this has been a nice race recap. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.